They're gonna love you.
Ha! We all hate him! And all he's done is smile and wink up until this episode. Welcome back. This is going to be my Falcon and Winter Soldier video for episode 2. There was a ton of huge Easter eggs and new characters from the comics that they introduced. So if you're new here, go punch that subscribe button like you're a super soldier, or Mephisto will come to your house tonight and stare at you through the windows. Just a fair warning, there will be spoilers, duh, and we're going to be breaking down the episode and talking about my top 10 Easter eggs, as well as some even smaller head nods later that you probably missed, so make sure you watch until the end of the video. Starting off in episode 2, we finally got to see Sam and Bucky together in a buddy cop scenario trying to bust this underground group's heist that call themselves the Flag Smashers. And we learned that the hostage that Sam and Bucky go after in the truck isn't actually a hostage, but is actually the leader of the Flag Smashers. Her name is Carly Morgenthau, and is the comic book adaptation of Carl Morgenthau, who was originally a guy that they gender swapped for a young woman in the show. I really like this adaptation, loved her in Solo, but in the comics, Morgenthau believed that the world needed to do away with all the symbols of nationalism, and because of this, he ended up crossing paths with Captain America quite a few times. The biggest shock, though, of the episode, not gonna lie, is when she snatched Red Wing out of the air and straight up snapped him in half. I literally just finished saying how much I love him and hope he keeps evolving as a character, and then next episode, snapped him like a twig. So sad. I perked up so quick and was ready to go John Wick on her for that. But that prompts the question of what are they gonna do next with Red Wing, and why didn't we ever see Sam be upset about losing his little buddy? I don't think that he'll actually get a real Falcon as his replacement. While it would be a neat head nod and fulfillment to the comics, it'd be a pretty far step down from what this Red Wing had to offer. And while I'm sure Torres will play a larger role in the series than we were originally thinking, I'm not sure if they'll build him up to be a Red Wing hero sidekick for Falcon this fast. I mean, it is Marvel, anything could happen, but more importantly, the Flag Smashers. This rogue group of terrorist super soldiers is running around at the start of this episode, stealing what seems to be vaccines from the Global Repatriation Council. I said that wrong. And they're just trying to redistribute this to refugees that got snapped back after the blip. But just what if they stole some more super soldier serum and they're recruiting volunteers to expand their operation? Maybe that's what the blue serum that they teased in the credits was. This group is really interesting, and towards the end of the episode, they allude to some big event that they have planned soon, which I'm sure we'll see start off episode 3, but the biggest thing in question is their mission statement. In this episode, we learn that their directive is that since they think life was better before the blip, when there was half as many people, they're trying to get rid of the national divisions and borders. Like, how do those two correlate? They're getting support from the public, as we saw in the first episode, and while GRC is trying to return everything to normal how it was before the blip, this freedom fighter group is acting as Robin Hood, running around stealing medical supplies and vaccines to give back to the people. But apparently in their last heist, they snatched something bigger and more important that belonged to a new baddie, the Power Broker, who we'll talk about later. So now they're on the run from this guy's goons too, as we see the Flag Smasher sacrifice himself towards the end of the episode. But honestly, from the bad guy's perspective, why not knock the pole over, block the road, and then run away and survive? And then from the good guy's perspective, why not just shoot the bad guy super soldiers? I mean, that seems to be pretty effective. Like, after he knocked the pole over, he didn't slow them down very much, huh? By the way, go down and punch that subscribe button until it turns gray and dies. This will actually prove to me if you're a real super soldier or not, and hitting the notification bell only proves it more. So don't forget to come join the Discord too. Link is in the comments. We've got some game nights coming up that you're not going to want to miss. Now, honestly, probably the best Easter egg of this episode, and possibly of the whole series, is Isaiah Bradley. This was a character that was introduced in the comics in 2003 through a miniseries called Truth, Red, White, and Black. In this series, Isaiah Bradley was established as the secret black Captain America during the 50s. Basically, after Steve Rogers was turned into a super soldier, other scientists started experimenting on black soldiers trying to replicate the super soldier serum. And out of the 300 test subjects, Bradley was the only survivor. And against orders, he took on the Captain America suit and went on to fight the Germans. And just like in the show, they punished him by throwing him in prison, only for him to be pardoned in his later years, where he lived under the radar, only known as a legend in the black community. In the 50s, Captain America comics were heavily tied to anti-communist propaganda due to the war, so when Marvel reintroduced Captain America in the 60s as an Avenger, they also introduced Steve being frozen during World War II, essentially negating his 50s adventures. So Bradley kind of filled this gap and was said to be the secret Captain America while Steve was on ice. And in this show, the US government used him while Steve was frozen to go to South Korea and take care of Bucky because all the other teams they had sent over were killed by Bucky. And as soon as I saw this in the episode and they told us that he and Bucky had a bar fight back in 51 in Goyang, the only thing I could think about was we need to see a Bucky flashback of him and Black Captain America having this huge bar fight where Isaiah ends up ripping Bucky's metal arm off, kind of like how Iron Man left him in Civil War. This is what I was talking about last video, where there's so much opportunity for the Hydra Bucky flashbacks. This is exactly what I meant. I need to see this bar fight. Could you imagine? It could easily be the best fight of the series. Now I want to see some Black Captain America flashbacks. I need to see him and Bucky's fight. It's just, the series is so short. Next Friday already marks the halfway point. So sad. But with this Easter egg came another one that I am so excited about. For just a split second, we get to see Isaiah's grandson, Elijah Bradley, who will eventually become the young Avenger known as Patriot. Now, for a while, he claimed to have the same super soldier serum in him that his grandfather had, but in reality, he was just pumping himself full of secret mutant growth hormones to seemingly get the same type of super strength. And eventually, Isaiah does give him a blood transfusion, which actually turns him into a super soldier like his granddad, making his original claims true. And let me just tell you, I know we're not there yet, but when we do get to it, the Young Avengers is going to be so freaking good. We just had Wiccan and Speed introduced in the Wandavision series, and we got Haley Steinfeld's character, Kate Bishop, as the new Hawkeye in that series coming up. And we just had Catherine Newton announced to be playing Scott Lang's daughter, Cassie, in Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania. Without a lot of people realizing it, we're in the heart of all these new future Young Avengers being introduced, and I could not be more excited. It's now just a matter of time. Young Avengers is going to be so dope. I cannot wait. The next big Easter egg literally made Bucky get out of the car just so he didn't deck the new Cap and his sidekick. Lamar Hoskins is introduced in this episode as John Walker's sidekick and goes by the name Battlestar. In the comics, Lamar Hoskins was originally a professional wrestler who was granted super strength from the Power Broker, who we'll talk about next, but when Walker took over Captain America, Hoskins first became the new Bucky before ditching the name in favor of Battlestar. After the storyline of Walker as Cap ran its course, Battlestar had remained a minor patriotic vigilante in the Marvel Universe, showing up here and there throughout the years. If I was there and they said that, I probably would have hopped out of the car too.
Who are you?
I'm Battlestar, John Spiderman.
Well, I heard
If you keep talking, I'm gonna get out of the car.
I'm Battlestar.
It just shows how broken we are. How much we really need help.
The next is the big mystery baddie of this episode and possibly the entire series, unless they're still planning on using Mephisto, of course. The Power Broker in the comics is this villain that literally turns people into super soldiers. He's actually the one that soups up John Walker and Lamar Hoskins in the comics. This man is known for turning characters into super soldiers, and with the Flag Smashers being a group of rogue super soldiers fighting to dethrone the people put in power after they came back from the blip, I can only imagine what they stole from him. I doubt he's their supplier if he sent his goons after them because they took something that belonged to him. Most likely more serum to recruit some more people to their cause. And while this next guy is still a mystery, technically there's a slight chance that it could be Zemo, which I highly doubt. I mean, these are two different people in the comics. I don't know why they'd combine them in the show, but Zemo was one of the leaders of the Winter Soldier program that Bucky came from. Zemo was the one that used the Hydra book to reactivate Bucky when he was being held prisoner. I can only hope that we see Zemo try to activate Bucky again. I would love to see Bucky play with it and pretend to be activated and then be like, no, that doesn't work anymore, and joke around with him. I doubt it would work, but either way, it would be really cool to see them play around with that in episode 3 when they go try to talk to him and see if he knows where the Flag Smashers are hiding. I really like that they brought this character back. Maybe he'll escape by the end of the season and come back as one of the main villains for season 2. Who knows? He's such a crazy, manipulative villain. I wouldn't be mad if we got to see more of his madness running about while Bucky and Sam have to work together to stop him this time. And the next Easter egg was really cool little insider head nod to Bucky actually being a pretty big nerd. When Sam brings up the big 3 villains and then Bucky mentions Gandalf, Sam asks him how he knows about Gandalf, and Bucky responds by telling Sam that he read The Hobbit back in 1937 when it was first published, which in itself is pretty cool. Who would have thought that Bucky was a nerd or into reading books? I love that about him. But if we look into it a little further, like we know Marvel always does, we can learn that The Hobbit only came out in Europe in 1937. It wasn't published in the US until a year later, and when it did first come out, it was considered a book for children. This means that either Bucky ordered it from overseas because he was so excited to read it, or that he was already overseas when it came out. But released in 1937 would mean Bucky's in his 20s back in Brooklyn with Steve, who probably read it as well. Maybe he encouraged Bucky to read it for himself. But that means they most likely ordered it from abroad since they couldn't have been overseas then. Who would have thought they were so excited to read what was considered a kid's book that they ordered it from Europe in its first year of being out? Just a nice little character detail we can all appreciate. And another small thing that they snuck into the show just to lightly address is when Sam and Bucky were heading over to visit Isaiah, they passed this kid on the sidewalk who referred to Sam as Black Falcon. This is just a head nod to the comics, because when black superheroes were first being introduced to the comics, a lot of them were being identified as such with their names, like Black Panther, Black Lightning, Black Vulcan, and yet Sam was never known as Black Falcon. But considering he was created in 1969, he could have very easily ended up with that name. It was also funny to see Sam joking about Bucky being called White Panther, of course poking fun at his nickname White Wolf he first donned during his time in Wakanda. And last but definitely not least, there's a super quick Star Wars Easter egg in this episode. At the end of the episode, we briefly get a look at Zemo and that he's being held in cell 2187. Just a little reference to Princess Leia being held in cell block 2187 in A New Hope.
Here it is, 2187. You go and get her. I'll hold him here.
I thought this one was especially cool because if you didn't know, Amino had me make a Spotlight animated series for their app where I hid tons of Star Wars Easter eggs in my series, including the main character of the series being captured and held in cell number 2187. I just thought that was a little nice detail for those of you that caught it. If you guys want to check it out, I'll put the link in my description. And I'm not too sure if you know this, but I actually will come to your house and eat all of your cookies if you don't subscribe right this second. I'll be making more videos on the series soon, so make sure you've got notifications on so you don't miss the next one. Thank you so much for watching the video, and don't forget to come join the best Discord on the planet. We'll be having some game nights coming up next week that you're not going to want to miss. I even heard that Mephisto's going to be there. If you made it to the very end of this video, comment Michael J, more like Mephisto J, at the end of your comment, and I'll be hearting all of those comments. And you know the drill. Until next time, I will see you in the comments. Peace.